So if I make a mistake, the way I look at it is this. It's already dead. It wasn't gonna get much worse than that. I'm Allis Markham. I'm a taxidermist, and I preserve dead animals for museums, education, and art.
Oh, yeah. Superwoman, you're amazing, no comparing. Superwoman, you're a fighter, so fly higher. Superwoman, don't give up, keep grinding. Superwoman, keep your head up, keep smiling.
Your tattoo looks so cool.
Oh, thanks.
Superwoman.
Taxidermy literally breaks down to skin arranger, right? Taxi is arrangement or movement. Dermy is dermis, that's the skin. So I am a skin arranger. But what it really means practically is that I take dead animals and I preserve them so that they look alive.
Very well said.
Thank you. It's not my first rodeo. Usually my client is a nature center or a museum, so I'm getting my specimen from them. Hey, this is something we have in our freezer. It's a warbler, it hit a window. Okay, so now I have a frozen dead warbler that gets brought to me. I need to get this bird in a place where we can preserve the skin. So that means removing all the muscle, all the fat, all of that. It's just like taking off a hoodie. You're making an incision and then you're de-sleeving different areas. And that's the deconstruction. The reconstruction is when the artist comes in. That's where we make a sculpture of what's on the inside of that animal, so that hoodie that we removed, right, from it can then be put onto that mannequin, can be put onto that sculpture. So if we're doing a mammal, let's say it's a mountain lion, it's got very short hair, you might even see, right, the scapulars on there, all of that, that'll be in that sculpture. If I pull out this way. But if I'm doing a bird, birds are covered in feathers. It's like they're wearing ball gowns. So you're making a scaffolding in a way. So that's where you get into different types of taxidermists and different types of taxidermy. But at the end of the day, you're starting with a dead animal, and then hopefully through deconstruction, reconstruction, you end up with something that is art. A lot of museum specimens will have been brought to the museum or to me from Fish and Wildlife, and that's our governing body that regulates wildlife here in the United States. That's, you know, picking up roadkill, window strikes, things turned in by citizens. That's all the damage from the roadkill that we've patched up. Another thing is zoo deaths, right? So unfortunately, everything that lives dies. When you have livestock, you get dead stock eventually. And so the hope is with zoos, rehab centers, you know, anything like that, that if they spent their life doing education, maybe that same specimen can spend its death in education as well. I always try to think with the pose that it is in fact a scene. It is a moment that I'm trying to capture, and that moment should have an accurate behavior. There should be a bit of personality in there, and then also how do I artistically frame that? So I'm telling a story, but I want it to be an accurate story, and I want it to be a beautiful story. There's no taxidermy textbook. The same with carpentry, even with painting, right? There are textbooks on these things, but there's just not one way to do it. So yes, you do have to be creative. How do you apply the skills that you have to accomplish this goal? There's creativity and there's art in that, right? Squeamish. I mean, I grew up in the great outdoors in Indiana and also Florida, and I was always the kid who picked up bugs. I mean, I can remember being in high school when we were all doing the dissections in class. You know, there's always the girl or the guy or, you know, who raises their hand and says, I don't want to do that. I was the person sitting next to them saying, can I have theirs? So I was never really grossed out or squeamish. I just see it as biology. As an adult, I fell in love with museums and I wanted to figure out a way to work there. And it turns out that taxidermy is really where science and art meet. I was volunteering at the Natural History Museum here in Los Angeles in the taxidermy department where I decided I wanted to volunteer. I think they got a little too embarrassed not to pay me.
Can you slide to your right like an inch or less?
If I weren't a taxidermist, what would I be doing? Somehow I lost my marbles and ended up here. So if I didn't find that, I guess what's the next step? Like bag lady? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Superwoman, you're amazing, no comparing. Superwoman, you're a fighter, so fly higher. Superwoman.
You know, I don't like the term influencer so much. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Dead Stream. And I don't have a huge following, but for a taxidermist, yes, sadly, I have the taxidermy following, yes. As far as like size, right? I'm trying to get people to look at what I'm doing differently. So when people hear about taxidermy, they think death, they think Norman Bates, they think there's all these preconceived notions. Because another thing people think when they think taxidermists, they think old white male. And why there are many lovely old white men taxidermists that I know, we're not all that. There is a lot of growing diversity in taxidermy. And I'm proud to represent one segment of it. Good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool.
Excellent.